All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So, as we all know, the New York Jets are going to be taking on the New England Patriots, the 0-1 division rival, New England Patriots in week 2 this upcoming Sunday. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff. And I wanted to bring on my buddy Colby from Pat's Global. Colby, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me on. First off, we've been trying to do this for a while. We tried to do this last season. Unfortunately, we couldn't get there. So, I'm more than stoked that we're finally able to get this collab going.
For sure, man. And it's crazy because I feel like it's really in the first time in my life, it's like the Jets are starting a brand new first round rookie quarterback and the Patriots are doing the same thing.
Yep.
But unfortunately for us, both of our teams started off 0-1. Talk about some of your takeaways from the Patriots against the division rival Dolphins. Obviously, you never want to drop a game, the home opener against a rival. So, and yeah, it was only 1 point at the end of the day. And I actually went back and rewatched that game. But what were some of your initial takeaways?
Well, first off, what the heck with the AFC East, right? The Patriots lose, the Bills lose, the Jets lose, and the Dolphins win. This was the prime time for New England to win. And that's what I was telling myself when I saw the Bills lose, because, you're really hearing, okay, Bills or Patriots. Patriots could take over the division. Can we see? This was the prime time for New England to win this game and get on top of that division, because Bills aren't going to lose too many games, right? So, unfortunately, that was a very disappointing loss here for the Patriots. My biggest takeaways, though, obviously were New England beat themselves. And that's not to say Miami's a bad team. That's not to say Miami didn't play well. New England should have won that game. Mac Jones threw for 280 yards, so he was just below 300, had a really good performance. Realistically, if you don't have those penalties, Mac Jones is easily throwing for over 300 yards. And because of those penalties, it got taken back. New England had a total of 8 penalties for about 84, 89 yards. That is what killed them, along with 4 fumbles in which they lost 2 of them. New England beat themselves in this game, a game we should have ultimately won. But at the end of the day, mistakes that New England does not make. If you watched that Patriots game, you would have heard them say, this is the least 2 penalized teams in the NFL. But somehow New England comes out with way more penalties than originally expected. And ultimately, what I got from that is it all comes down to experience. It all comes down to age. When you look at the past New England Patriots teams, you're usually looking at veterans, and that's why they're never penalized. But when I was in Boston myself just a few weeks ago, I was reporting live from Gillette Stadium, and I told people, I said, penalties are a big issue. Just in practice, from what I was seeing, false starts, guys running laps, all this. I said they need to get this fixed before week 1. And unfortunately, they did not. And that's the reason why we lost this game. I thought that both the defense and the offense were playing well, but like Patriots cornerback Jonathan Jones said himself, they were not playing complimentary football. The problem is your defense is finally making stops, and that's when your offense is not able to make a play, right? They were either driving down the field and then it was a fumble, or they're driving down the field and it only resulted in a field goal. And then when your offense is finally putting up points, the defense was letting the Dolphins offense put up points. So it all came down to the Patriots not playing like your normal New England Patriots.
Dude, and you know what's absolutely crazy, man? I just posted my the Pats Jets preview game or preview video yesterday.
Yeah.
And in that video, I was talking about, I really felt like the Pats beat themselves because of the penalties, the turnovers, the 4 fumbles, like you said, and the multiple field red zone attempts. I felt like they kept getting down there, but every single time they were either walking away with 3 or turning the ball over. And it's like, you're not going to win a lot of, and yeah, 3 points is great. But if that's your only, source of points pretty much all day, you're not going to win a bunch of games. So, but overall, I felt like there was a lot of good from that game as well. Like Mac Jones, like you said, Nelson Aguilar, I thought stepped up, 5 catches, had a touchdown grab, a nice touchdown grab.
Yeah.
What do you think and this is such a new Patriot. I feel like for the Pats, we've been so accustomed to seeing, them not beat themselves and Tom Brady, and they don't turn the ball over, they no penalties. But with this new younger team, all of these brand new free agents, Aguilar, Judon, Smith, Henry, tons of new guys. What's the biggest strength of this New England Patriots team?
I would say easily the biggest strength of this team is it's still going to be the defense. And some people are going to say, really, the defense, Stephon Gilmore's not here. And, it was a little bit shaky week 1. It's still the defense. I would say it's different from years past. When you look at past years with the New England Patriots, you're talking about that secondary. You're talking about J.C. Jackson, Stephon Gilmore, Devin McCourty, Jason McCourty. You were talking about just a stacked secondary, one of the best in the league. Unfortunately, Stephon Gilmore not here right now. New England kind of going through a weird phase between CB1 and then CB2, not really having CB3. So there's some issues definitely within that secondary. I think they played fine week 1. I think that they're still able to get past without Stephon Gilmore, but nonetheless, not having a number 1 lockdown corner, that's going to hurt any team. But the strength now of this defense has turned to that defensive line. This defensive line alone is able to get pass rush with Christian Barmore finally getting pressure within the interior of the defensive line. That is something you don't see often with New England. Usually see it with the edge defenders. You have your linebackers blitzing through the middle. That's usually how you got pressure through the middle. But now New England went out in free agency. They added guys like former Jets player Henry Anderson. You have, like I said, Christian Barmore, who has been just fantastic since they drafted him in the 2nd round. Devon Godchow, you bring back Lawrence Guy, you bring back Dietrich Wise. So New England has guys in the interior to finally be able to get that done. Not to mention guys on the edge. Dante Hightower return. You bring back Kyle Van Noy. Matthew Judon has been just a force to be reckoned with. Josh Uche. There were days in training camp that Josh Uche was coming out with 3-5 sacks just on one day. So this pass rush is insane just within the front 7. Then you're adding guys like your linebackers, or you're adding your corners when the Patriots like to do their corner blitzes. It's going to come down to pressure. And something that, I think here for the Jets is that if you want to kind of take advantage of those holes New England has defensively, it's getting passes off quick. Because if you saw what Miami did, the best way that they beat this team was quick passes, right? Because Belichick's kind of doing this thing. This is kind of something I came to a realization this offseason. When you look at the past few years, the Patriots have had some deficiencies along that defensive line, getting pass rush at times, especially at stopping the run. But they've had an elite secondary to be able to cover these guys, which gave that defensive line more time to get to the quarterback. Now things have switched, so it's kind of opposite, right? Now you have this elite defensive line that you're asking to get to the quarterback super quick because you don't have a secondary that's going to be able to cover these guys for super long. So as long as I think the Jets get, 1 to 1.5 seconds to get the ball out within that period of time, they should be fine. But like that pass rush that New England has, it's going to be something different than you've seen in years.
Yeah, quick passing, man. That was something that, and I don't know if you caught the Jets game or even saw the highlights of it, but in that Panthers game, the first half was just a train wreck. It was a complete abomination. There was no pass rush at all, or no quick passing at all. We couldn't establish the run or anything like that. So we were constantly in 3rd and long, and it was a joke. So, and I mean, another thing too, when you take a look at the Mike LaFleur offense, the Jets offensive coordinator, I mean, quick passing is, that's a huge, huge part. So to see this team come out and not really utilize quick passing at all in the short passing attempts that they did try to do, they dropped them, right? Elijah Moore had a couple drops. It was just super, super sloppy. But and you brought up Stephon Gilmore, and that one's a super, super interesting player here, or interesting situation, because he's hurt, but even before the injury, I felt like there was a bunch of trade rumors kind of floating around, like he was going to be dealt, but the Patriots are making these win now moves. What's happening with Stephon Gilmore?
Yeah, I mean, you even said trade rumors happening before. Trade rumors are still happening now, unfortunately. Like, we're all up here with Stephon Gilmore all off season. I'm getting questions in my comments. I'm getting questions in my DMs. I'm getting questions in my live streams. Like, what's the Stephon Gilmore situation? And unfortunately, I was like, we haven't gotten a Stephon Gilmore update in weeks. Now, Stephon Gilmore was not actually practicing in training camp. There was one day where he was at training camp, but he was on the lower field practicing with those guys. He's been within the facility, but hasn't actually been practicing. So that's what we would call an in holdout. You're holding in, not really holding out. It's kind of the new technical term in the NFL for guys holding out, but not losing money really. So that's basically what Stephon Gilmore has been doing now. Yeah, he did deal with that like torn quad last year, kind of mid-season, but would he have been able to start week one? From what I'm hearing, probably not. But to sit out 6 weeks, no. I mean, at the worst, 3 weeks, at the worst. There's no reason he should be out 6 weeks. And I think that all comes down to contract issues. And at the end of the day, we don't know what kind of money Stephon Gilmore does want versus what New England is okay with giving. From my own personal perspective, what I do believe is that Belichick does not want to go out and just give Stephon Gilmore money, right? Stephon Gilmore is getting up there in age. Stephon Gilmore's in contract year. Stephon Gilmore's coming off a season-ending injury. Belichick wants to make sure, okay, I'm not opposed to giving you money, as I'm sure we've all seen this offseason with Belichick and free agency and the draft. But the question is if I give you that money, are you going to come back as a top corner in this league? Or is that injury, is that age going to plague you? And I think that's kind of where they're on different standards. Is Belichick wants him to come back and see, hey, you worth that money. If you are, I'm willing to give it to you, versus Gilmore being like, well, I'm not coming back unless you give me that money. So
Well,
I think we're at a situation either way where Stephon Gilmore can come back week 6, but if they don't get some contract situation done, he's not going to come back because they moved money from this year. So money he was supposed to make in 2021 into 2020. So he's only expected to make about $7 million this year. That's not even top 10 cornerback money. He's not going to come in and play for that.
so how many more years is left on his deal? Does he want like a long-term extension, like another 4-year deal? Or is it just like, I want my annual pay rate to go up?
So ultimately it's the annual pay rate. So he's a free agent at
Okay.
the end of the season. This is his final year in under contract. So he'll be a free agent at the end of the season. He said he wants to stay a Patriot. Like he wants to play for the Patriots, but he wants to get paid respectively. He wants to be paid the way he's playing, which is completely understandable, right? Like I'm not one of those Patriots fans where I'm like, oh, he wants more money. Will you sign this contract so and so long ago? No, like he deserves a pay upgrade from $7 million for being a former defensive player of the year. It all just depends on how much money does he want. But yeah, he's in contract year. And I think it ultimately comes down to, hey, whatever, if you give me a contract extension, that's great. That's what I would love. But if it doesn't happen and you just bump up my pay for this year and I'm a free agent at the end of the season, okay.
Yeah. Or I wonder if it could be maybe like a 1-year, I don't want to say a rental because he's been on the Patriots for a long time, but they give him that 1-year extension. So he has the rest of this season. And then in 2022, he's one of the highest paid corners. But it's just, Belichick's not really handing out that long-term security. So if he is still kind of on the fence about, Gilmore's health or how he looks coming back, he's only locked in for the 1 year. But dude, it's such a strange situation, that whole Stephon Gilmore thing, because I don't know any Patriots fan, so I haven't had the opportunity to ask anybody, but I just felt like it was just odd. Like one of the best players in the league, win now defense. It's the New England Patriots that there's a lot of players that want to play for New England. And there was just like trade rumors and then the injury. So I don't know. It was a strange situation. But
yeah, it definitely comes along with like long-term stability too. Because what you do have to keep in mind, JC Jackson's also a free agent at the end of the season.
I do like JC Jackson a lot. I know you guys put the 2nd-round tender on him, and I actually made a video. I'm like, honestly, like I really, really like JC Jackson. Like he was one of the top, if he hit the market, he was going to be one of my top guys that I wanted the Jets to target because, cornerback were really young. But anyway, what do you think the Jets can do to have success against New England based off of what we've seen from week 1?
Yeah, and obviously, and we're gonna talk about this when you come on my channel, and I'm gonna put a disclaimer on that too. Like, I completely understand it's only week 2. We only seen from week 1. So, I mean, based off of what I've seen from training camp, being down in Boston and week 1, I would definitely say, and we kind of talked about this already a little bit, but quick passing, you have to get that going. You have to get that figured out. Zach Wilson has to get the ball out between 1 to 1.5 seconds, because New England is going to blitz the heck, not even necessarily blitz, but they're going to get pressure alone because of that defensive line, not to mention the factor of them blitzing those linebackers. They're going to get a ton of pressure on Zach Wilson, especially with the injuries and kind of the scruffle you're dealing with already on your offensive line. I mean, I respect what the Panthers defense is, but I mean, and I'm not trying to be a biased Patriots fan, but I do believe that the defensive line, the pressure that the Patriots are able to get with the players defensively they have is going to be more substantial than what the Panthers have. So in order for the Jets to find success against New England, it's going to be taking advantage of the issues they have within their secondary, the lack of depth, Stephon Gilmore not being there, JC Jackson kind of being up and down as a number one cornerback. And you're really going to get that with doing slants, crossovers, really those quick passes that you can get out quick on these guys, especially getting it to your taller receivers. I think Corey Davis could have a really nice game. I think Elijah Moore, he could have a decent game. I know he didn't have a great week one, but I think this could be a week where he definitely does get it going. And you didn't establish a running game week one either. If you can establish some type of running game, which is going to be tough, I think that's going to make you a more dynamic offense and will definitely help you out more.
Yeah, I felt like defensively, really the name of the game is to like crank up the heat on Mac Jones, because I mean, New England controlled the clock over 36 minutes of time of possession against Miami. Like, that's crazy. What a crazy number. And they still came out with a loss. So I felt like Mac Jones was just sitting back there all day. I mean, he was decisive. He looked good, quick release, like everything was there, but the Dolphins didn't really, I felt like the Dolphins just didn't really get into Mac Jones's head at all. Like, he was just, he was really comfortable all day long. So, I mean, the Patriots were at home and now they're going to be in MetLife. So maybe the Jets can just really crank up the heat, crank up the pass rush on Mac Jones and try to get in his head. And obviously the fans, in the packed stadium will as well. But Colby, I appreciate you coming on, man. Can't wait to hop onto your channel now. And then all of his links are down below in the description, Twitter, Instagram, and then of course, YouTube. Colby, I appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir, man. I appreciate you for having me on. Thank you.
Thanks so much for watching. And as always, go Jets.